My practice had to change really because of the pandemic and the current situation that was going on with being in and out of lockdown. I went to the studio early in January, and by the end of the day, we were in a national lockdown, and it wasn't clear how long that lockdown was going to last for.
Welcome to the BBC News at 1. With the whole of the UK facing another period of strict lockdown, we appear to be back where we started. We'll have to stay at home, schools are closed, and even if you do venture out, there's not much you can do to cheer yourself up. Few shops, no restaurants, and no parks. And that'll be the case for weeks. Wales is already in lockdown, and Northern Ireland is expected to go the same way. England's rules come into force tomorrow. Scotland's started at midnight.
And this was the kind of world that we were living in at the time I was making work. So yeah, my practice had to change to make sure that I could keep making work, because I couldn't get to the studio, I couldn't physically paint in the way that I'd planned to do. So I bought an iPad. The iPad work really stemmed from David Hockney. I visited Salts Mill Gallery in Saltaire just before the second lockdown. Whilst I was there, I'd taken a sketchbook to draw with a pencil and kind of make notes. And when I went to the arrival of Spring Room, which is where a lot of his iPad drawings are, paintings are, I thought, well, why didn't I use my iPhone? You know, it was colour that I wanted to capture, and it was the marks that he was making that I wanted to capture. And I couldn't do that using just a pencil and paper. So I started using my iPhone the way that he would have done. And I really felt connected to the way that he was working. It really made sense to me to have my iPhone for when I couldn't get to the studio. I had one day in the studio after Christmas, and I was ready for it. I was really bold and confident, knew what I wanted to do. And then 8 o'clock that day, we went into a national lockdown again for the third time. And this one was uncertain when we were going to be out of it. So that uncertainty really crushed me at the time. I felt really frustrated that I'd built up this energy to go and paint in the studio, to use oil paint, and that was taken away. It was taken away from me. So I sulked for a bit, and then I went back to basics. I went back to drawing in my sketchbook. I went back to using felt tip pens, colouring pencils, clean ways of working at home. And then I thought, well, I really need to get an iPad. And the iPad came mid-January. And from then I was making iPad paintings. I call them iPad paintings because of the process and the way that I feel when I make the work. It's playing a painting. It's creating the illusion of paint, because you have to think about the process of how paint works, how you build layers on top of each other, how the colours work. I am influenced by quite a lot, artists, as well as weather, mood, times of the year. You know, we're currently in the spring, so it's meant that I can have daffodils around the house and tulips, which always bring an extra flare of colour into the place. Artist influence. I mean, the number one hero really is Matisse. His way of using colour is so exciting and so original. Matisse's use of colour is not scientific. You know, it's not in the way that Picasso used colour, that blue was for sad, red was for passion or anger. He really focused on how colours sit together and what they do for each other. You know, if you put yellow and red together, you've immediately got a warm feeling that creates that kind of tension. If you put yellow and blue together, you've got a colder feeling and you've got a colder yellow. So the same colour can work in different ways. So my love of colour and my understanding of colour comes from Matisse. Through the third lockdown, I wasn't feeling the colours that I was feeling before Christmas in December. In the January, it was cold, it was wet, it was dark. You know, it never really gets light during the day most days. So I was struggling to feel those colours that I had done before. And I turned to Matisse and I found his work that he made during World War I. It was a really uncertain time in 1914. And this uncertain time definitely played out in his work. The main thing for me is colour to create expression. So the subject will always change. You know, the work that I made at the end of 2020 invoked expression of excitement, empowerment, and was mainly situated in outside surroundings. The time following that was in lockdown, so it's scenes of inside. You know, that was kind of all I had because we weren't allowed really too much time outside. So that's how the relationship to subject changes. Partway through the third lockdown, the novelty had really gone. There was no more excitement around quizzes. To cope, I had to make my own novelty. I had to find my own way of getting through each day. And that's when I started playing with the female figure. These were a series of self-portraits. Because I was spending a lot of time with myself in one room. This chair features quite a lot in my work. And I was taking photos of me sitting in different positions around the chair, then combining them together to create a composition that had 2 or 3 of me in one painting. And this was born out of boredom, really. There's a sense of humour there of, having more than one self. But there's also a relationship with myself that I have. There's different things that I'm feeling. There's different parts of my personality that all come together. And that's what I'm getting across in this work. You can be one person, but we are incredibly complex, and there are so many parts to ourselves. And I really wanted to show that in these figures. The colours are really dark because of the way that I was feeling. I was really fed up and trying to create a novelty in maybe a childlike way. How kids play and create characters and create scenes, almost like acting. This helped me to get through part of January, February, definitely. I think there are also some really great contemporary women artists that I've come across the past few months. One that I want to talk about is Flora Jutnovic. An incredible understanding of paint that she has. She takes the Rococo period as her influence and really breaks down the artwork of that time to mere marks. Some of the works you can pick out elements of a figure. You might be able to work out an elbow or an arm, and that's really exciting. And I love her connection to art history, the way that she uses her love of art history in her contemporary work. Another influence that I am really excited by is Jade Fadajatemi. She really gets expression. Her work is definitely a series of self-portraits in an expressive, abstract kind of way. I think that her work has showed me that we really need to expand our language, because what she does is somehow beyond abstract expressionism. There's a real personal connection to what she's painting. She really understands every mark that she's making. And she's a few years out of her master's degree. She's got an amazing career that she's started on, and so I'm really keen and excited to follow her work as a mentor figure, really, as a role model figure who's a few years ahead of where I would love to be. So yeah, I'll definitely be watching her. Oh God. Yeah, I mean, it's a question that I always think about as I'm making work. You know, what can I do next? What can I get excited about next? And I think to answer that question, I don't know if I can. I think it depends really on what happens in the world. You know, at this moment in time, we are coming to the end of the third lockdown. In a month, I can go and get my hair cut. And, you know, beyond that, things are starting to open again. So I think that will be my influence. And I think that will be the direction that I go. And that will inform my practice and keep me going, really. So what I'm creating now, I can look back on in a month and realise and connect with how I was feeling at that time, this time. So I really love how my work moves forward constantly. You know, I don't think I'll ever be done. I don't think I'll ever be finished, because I'm always relying on how I'm feeling. What's going on in the world, you know, what the weather's doing, you know, that can really influence how I'm feeling and then what I create. So I do feel really excited for the future, and I'm only at the start, and I'm very aware of that. I love that, I embrace that, and yeah, we'll just have to see.